When it comes to travel, knowing even just a little bit of the local language can go a long way. It can mean the difference between a terrible and an unforgettable experience. In this video, I'll guide you through my step-by-step method on how to learn essential travel phrases simply and easily with the help of reusable building blocks. Here's how to be travel fluent in 10 simple steps. Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm the Intrepid Guide, your guide to language learning for travel using my 80/20 method. If you're new to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click on the bell notification so you get an alert when I post more videos like this one. We all love to travel, but no one talks about the importance of speaking the local language when we travel to foreign countries. This is surprising to me since it's such a big part of travel. We go abroad to see beautiful places, try new cuisines, but there's nothing like communicating with the locals and learning from them. Even learning to use just a few key words and phrases can do wonders for enhancing your travel experiences. It's a great way to show respect and to make a good first impression. This is why I not only write detailed destination guides, produce informative videos, I also create free travel phrase guides and online language video courses to help travelers like you get the most out of their travel experiences. So much of a place and its history is wrapped up in the people who inhabit it and through them, the language they speak. We can see this evidenced in idiomatic expressions and in simple greetings. For example, before I visited Egypt, I wanted to learn some Arabic greetings along with some other basic sentences. Pretty quickly, I found out that in Arabic, when you say "see you soon" to someone, the reply isn't "yes, see you soon," it's "inshallah." This literally translates to "God willing" or "if God wills it." The speaker is saying, "Yes, I hope to see you again, but it's up to God if we will." This phrase comes from a Quranic command which Muslims use when speaking about future events. Just by learning this simple phrase, you gain a lot of insight into how significant a role religion plays in the Muslim and Arabic-speaking culture. You don't need to be fluent to make a difference. It's amazing how knowing even a little bit of a local language can go a long way. Just by showing that you've made an effort to learn some of the local language brings out the best in people. It all begins with how to greet someone. Whether you're in Norway or in the Netherlands, two countries where English is spoken very well by its natives, you should always greet people in their native language. This is a great icebreaker because you've just shown the receiver that you respect them enough to have made the effort to learn their language. There's no telling where your conversation will lead from here. For example, during one night out at dinner in Palermo in Italy, I was with 5 of my closest English-speaking friends who all spoke various levels of Italian. At a table across from us was a young family. They were so interested in us, and after a brief conversation, all in Italian, they invited us to their home for afternoon tea the next day. This couldn't have happened if we all weren't able to speak in Italian. You don't need to be fluent in the language to have these unique interactions such as these, but you can be fluent enough for travel. And this is what we'll be discussing in this video. In the following steps, I'll share with you a simple formula to help you learn how to create your own phrases when traveling abroad without needing to memorize long phrases from a travel phrase book. What is travel fluent? Being travel fluent means you're familiar with enough of the language in order to get by in various travel-related situations. From knowing how to tell the taxi driver your hotel address to ordering a vegetarian meal at a restaurant. Travel fluency is knowing what to say, how to ask questions, and how to reply appropriately. Your grammar isn't perfect and you definitely don't know everything by heart. But with the right building blocks, a smile and a gesture or two, you're fluent for travel. You're travel fluent. The vocabulary you need will differ depending on if you hire a car and drive around by yourself in the Lofoten Islands in Norway, or if you're popping over to Rome for the weekend. But that's okay. The formula I'll be sharing with you is flexible. It gives you the building blocks so that you can use and reuse them on any kind of trip that you take. Once you implement what you've learned, you'll see how enjoyable it is to communicate with others in their language. And who knows, it may even inspire you to learn the language more seriously. How to be fluent for travel in 10 simple steps. Step 1. Use the 80/20 rule. The Pareto Principle, also known as the 80-20 rule, states that 80% of the results in any endeavour come from 20% of the input, material or effort. This principle was coined by management consultant Joseph M. Duran and named after the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, who in 1896 showed that approximately 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population. The Pareto principle can be applied in any aspect of your life. It even works for language learning too. Think about this. Do you know every single word in the English dictionary? Of course not. Does the fact that you don't prevent you from having a conversation with English speakers? No. When it comes to travel, the same is true. You can have an even smaller or targeted vocabulary and still have meaningful conversations. You don't need to learn how to express your political views or articulate your thoughts about the origin of the universe, or even know how to say what your favourite colour is, because these aren't common topics you'll be discussing with people as a traveller. If you adopt the 80-20 rule and apply it to language learning for travel purposes, you're forced to focus on and choose only what you need to learn based on the likelihood and frequency in which you'll need to use it. For example, what percentage of time in any given trip do you think you'll need to ask how much something costs, where the bathroom is, or placing an order at a restaurant? I'd say 80% of the time, wouldn't you? Think about the 20% of vocabulary in your target language that you'll need in order to respond to 80% of the situations you'll find yourself in. What things will you need to know how to say? The answer to this question is exactly what I include in how I teach languages with my Intrepid Languages courses using the 80-20 method. In the following steps, we'll take a look at how you can break this down even further and use building blocks to form your own unique phrases and questions. Step 2. Master modal verbs. Wouldn't it be great if you could start speaking your target language without having to learn a bunch of grammar or memorize long phrases? Wouldn't it be great if you could easily create your own phrases just by using a few keywords? Well, you can. Modal verbs are a language learner's best friend. They give you loads of flexibility for the minimum amount of work it takes to learn them. If you're not familiar with the term, the most commonly used modal verbs in English are can, could, may, might, must, will, would, shall, should, ought to, have to, and need. By learning how to use the equivalent of these modal verbs in your target language, you're already halfway to creating your own unique phrases really easily and quickly. You don't need to learn every modal verb listed here either. If you can master the verbs could, meaning to be able to, want or to want to, and must, meaning to have to or ought to, that's enough to cover your bases. In order to find modal verbs in your target language, a simple Google search will do the trick. The reason why modal verbs are so powerful is because you only need to learn how to conjugate these 3 verbs instead of countless others. How do modal verbs work? Modal verbs allow you to create a phrase by placing an infinitive verb, meaning the full verb, after any conjugated modal verb. Conjugating verbs isn't a very sexy term, and it's usually something many students dread. Simply put, you conjugate verbs in order to communicate one or more of the following: person, number, gender, tense, aspect, mood, or voice. To learn these 3 key modal verbs, start by learning the basic structure of how they are used in a sentence. This is what the formula looks like, generally. Conjugated modal verb plus infinitive verb plus noun. Since Pareto's principle was inspired by an Italian, and Italian is my heritage language, let's use the Italian language as an example language of how you can be fluent for travel whilst traveling around Italy. Since the Italian modal verb to be able to is potere, the conjugation of potere looks like this. Io posso, I can. Tu puoi, you can. Lei, lui, lei può. You, formal, he, she can. Noi possiamo, we can. Voi potete, you can, plural. Loro possono, they can. The Italian modal verb for want or to want to is volere. The conjugation for volere looks like this. Io voglio, I want. Tu vuoi, you want. Lei, lui, lei vuole. You, formal, he, she wants. Noi vogliamo, we want. Voi volete, you want. Loro vogliono, they want. The Italian modal verb for to have to, ought to, or must is dovere. The conjugation of dovere looks like this. Io devo, I must. Tu devi, you must. Lei, lui, lei deve. You, formal, he, she must. Noi dobbiamo, we must. Voi dovete, you must. Loro devono, they must. Once you learn these three versatile modal verbs, you'll use them to form the first part of any question you ask or response you give. Step 3. Learn your top 10 verbs for travel. Now let's focus on the second part of the formula covered earlier, the infinitive verbs. If you've never learned grammar in school or have no idea what a verb is, then all you need to know is that it's any word you can place the word to in front of in English. For example, to go, to eat, to sleep, to find, to travel. You get the idea. When it comes to travel, there are certain questions and things you'll need to say repeatedly. Here is a list of the most useful verbs for travel that I recommend you learn in your target language, along with the examples of how they can be used in various situations. Of course, you can add more than 10 or swap out any of them for different verbs, but I've kept this list to 10 as it makes things more manageable and less overwhelming to learn at first. Top 10 verbs for travel. Take, prendere. For example, can I take a bus, train, taxi there? Go, andare. I want to go to the airport, museum, coliseum. Eat, mangiare. For example, I cannot eat meat. Order, ordinare. For example, may or can I order now? Have, avere. For example, may or can I have a menu? Buy, comprare. For example, I want to buy. Pay, pagare. For example, can I pay by credit card? Find, trovare. For example, where can I find the train station? Speak, parlare. Can you speak English? Understand, capire. For example, I cannot understand Italian. Now let's bring it all together. Using what you've learned and following the formula we covered earlier, we can create sentences such as Voglio andare, I want to go. Possiamo comprare, can we buy? Dobbiamo andare, we have to go. Action step. Choose the 10 most useful verbs you're most likely going to need and use on your trip. Step 4. Learn your top 10 nouns for travel. Just like we did in step 3, we need to identify which nouns are going to be used most frequently. As a general rule of thumb, a noun is a word you can place the word a, an, or the in front of. For example, the Colosseum, a restaurant, the airport, a market. Here is a list of useful nouns to know and their prepositions. Don't worry too much about how prepositions work, as this will overcomplicate what you're trying to do here, which is to communicate effectively, not perfectly. The nouns you choose to put on your list are entirely up to you. For example, you may not be vegetarian and decide to remove this from the list. So here are 10 nouns for travel that I recommend. The, a ticket, 2 tickets. Il, un biglietto, 2 biglietti. To, the, a bathroom. Al, il, un bagno. Italian. Learn how to say the name of the language in its native form. For example, Italian is l'italiano. To the, a bank. Alla, la, una banca. To the, a train station. Alla, la, una stazione ferroviaria. To the, airport. All'aeroporto, l'aeroporto. Il, un pullman bus. The, a bus. Vegetarian, male, female. Vegetariano, vegetariana. The, a receipt. La, una ricevuta. The change. Il resto. Let's bring it all together. Using what you've learned in the past 3 steps, we can use the formula conjugated modal verb plus infinitive verb plus noun to create these sentences. Voglio andare al bagno. I want to go to the bathroom. Possiamo comprare 2 biglietti per favore? Can we buy 2 tickets please? Dobbiamo andare all'aeroporto. We have to go to the airport. Action step. Choose the 10 most useful nouns you're most likely going to need and use on your trip. Step 5. Learn your top 10 adjectives for travel. For shorter sentences where you want to express your opinion or the state of something, you can use it is or è in Italian, followed by the adjective. An adjective is a word where you can place is, am, or are in front of it. For example, is big, are beautiful. If you want to emphasize these adjectives, you can use very, which is molto, or too, which is troppo, in front of the adjective. Here are 10 adjectives for travel. Big, grande. For example, è grande. Small, piccolo. For example, è troppo piccolo. Expensive, caro. For example, è troppo caro. Beautiful, bello. For example, è molto bello. Nice, carino. For example, è carino. Good, well. Buono, bene. For example, è molto buono, è molto bene. Interesting, interessante. For example, è interessante. Open, aperto. For example, è aperto. Closed, chiuso. For example, è chiuso. Perfect, perfetto. For example, è perfetto. Action step. Choose the 10 most useful adjectives you're most likely to need on your trip. Step 6. Learn how to use question words. While you can turn a modal verb phrase into a question just by adding an inflection to the end of the phrase, you can also use question words. Here are the most useful question words to learn. Where, dove. Where is, dov'è? Who, chi. When, quando. What, cosa, che cosa. How, come. How much, quanto. How much is, quant'è. Why, perché. Question words can also be paired with modal verbs. For example, dove posso trovare la stazione ferroviaria? Where can I find the train station? Quanto devo pagare? How much must I pay? Quando vuoi andare? When do you want to go? Action step. Practice forming sentences using question words followed by modal verbs. Step 7. Learn your biography, greetings, and pleasantries. As part of your travels, there will be moments where you'll have more meaningful conversations outside of the general day-to-day getting around and survival phrases, which we've already covered. During my encounter in that restaurant in Palermo, I didn't use modal verbs to get to know the family across the table from us. I used common Italian greetings and told them a bit about myself. I told them my biography. Learning your biography is a great hack because your background never changes. Once you learn it, you'll barely need to change it. The most important and reusable set of vocabulary you will ever need is all about you, funnily enough. Now, every time you meet someone new, what do? You introduce yourself. You may talk about your job, where you're from, and why you're learning a language. By focusing on learning your biography, you'll not only be able to comfortably hold your first 15-minute conversation, but it will build up so much needed confidence in speaking the language. Again, you don't need to overthink this and learn too much. Here are some key phrases to focus on. My name is, mi chiamo, I come from. Learn how to say the name of your country here. Vengo da, I am. Learn how to say your profession here. Sono, I can't speak, insert language, very well. Non so parlare italiano molto bene. Start your journey to biography fluency with my travel phrase guides. I'm constantly adding to the list, from Afrikaans to Vietnamese, Norwegian to Russian, and Greek to Spanish. To see them all, just click on the link in the description below. Also, do a Google search on introductions and then refer to an online language dictionary for any missing vocabulary. When it comes to greetings and pleasantries, stick with the basics and always focus on learning the formal option if available to be respectful. Here are top 10 greetings and pleasantries for travel. Hello, salve. Good morning, buongiorno. Good evening, buonasera. Goodbye, arrivederci. How are you? Come sta? I'm well, and you? Bene, e lei? Thank you, grazie. Please, per favore. You're welcome, prego. It's a pleasure to meet you. È un piacere conoscerla. Step 8. Bring it all together. Now that you've learned the basic building blocks, it's up to you to decide which verbs, adjectives, and nouns you want to learn. You can start with the ones outlined in this video, or you can change this depending on your needs. If you haven't done so already, do a Google search and start collecting all the words and phrases you want to learn. With a pen and paper, write down all your chosen verbs, adjectives, nouns, modal verbs, question words, greetings, pleasantries, and biography. The reason why I suggest you physically write it all down and not jump into Google Docs straight away is that it improves your memory. Once you've gathered everything, start to form your own phrases and questions using the formula included in this video. Again, write this down by hand. Write down as many as you can. Do this until you feel comfortable and you won't forget the structure. Now put everything in a Google Doc and refer back to it ahead of your trip and during your trip. Once this framework has been transferred to your long-term memory, remembering vocabulary is just a matter of learning by spaced repetition. For more tips on improving your memory, check out my video on 10 proven memory hacks to help you remember new vocabulary faster. Step 9. Practice and revise before you fly. At this point, you know what you need to do. You just need to practice. Use spaced repetition apps like Quizlet to help you review and retain what you've learned. On top of that, also practice saying things out loud. This is another great way to improve your memory when you hear your voice and say the words. I recommend studying on a regular basis at least 1 week ahead of your trip so you'll be travel fluent before you fly. Aim to squeeze in 10 to 15 minutes of uninterrupted study time every day at a time where you're most alert. Don't worry about being able to remember it all. You're learning more than most people do, so you should be very proud of yourself. Want more? Check out my top-rated language tools and apps, which I've linked to in the description below. Step 10. Bon voyage, or as I should say in Italian, buon viaggio. Once you arrive at your final destination, start putting into practice what you know. Start small with greetings and then build up to asking questions as you gain more confidence. Remember, have fun with the language. Don't be afraid to ask people to repeat themselves or to speak slower so you can understand them. Smile, and when in doubt, refer to your notes. Use gestures or refer to Google Translate. So there we have it, my 10-step method for being travel fluent. What language are you interested in learning? Let me know in the comments below. Have you got a trip coming up? Well, now you can learn Italian, Norwegian, French or Spanish using my 80-20 method. Just click on the link in the description below to check out my online video courses that will help you become conversational in the local language and help you to have authentic travel experiences. If you're serious about improving your target language, then download my free guide 9 Reasons You're Not Fluent Yet and How to Fix It. Just click on the link in the description below and I'll send you your free guide. In the meantime, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel and turn on those notifications so you get an alert when I post more videos like this one. Until next time, thanks for watching and happy language learning. Ciao!